The GIRO set a high benchmark last year, but we've already seen roundabouts decorated with pink bicycles. People are putting on the Italian menus in their coffee shops and in the restaurants, so definitely the GIRO is back.
Hello and welcome to the Gran Fondo Giro d'Italia Northern Ireland, as more than 3,000 riders take to the roads to celebrate the big start, the Gran Partenza of the 2014 Giro d'Italia. For the next half hour, we will be following the action in the epic, unspoiled countryside of Northern Ireland as Gran Fondo fever grips the Ulster bike riding community. It's mass participation at its most intense and a celebration of everything Italian, with the event kicking off at the now famous Titanic Visitor Centre in Belfast, converted into a bike expo for the weekend. Racing legend Stephen Roche always relishes an opportunity to ride on home roads and recall the glories of his wonderful Giro victory in 1987, as well as last year's spectacular Giro race visit.
Well, since the Giro last year, and the build-up to the Giro, it's been absolutely amazing. Like we saw the city bikes, like in the city centre. Like I think as far as now, they broke the record of rentals for any one day in any European country. You know, all of a sudden there's a kind of a cycling phobia here now. People are getting on bikes. They're biking to work. They want to ride sportives. They want to go on cycling holidays. They're joining clubs. There are clubs building up everywhere. There's new bike shops opening up everywhere. Like cycling has had an incredible impact on the economy, not just in Northern Ireland and Belfast, but in the whole of Ireland, you know. And I think the people now are more kind of cycling friendly, and they look at cycling as being a good way of keeping healthy as well.
With this burgeoning popularity of cycling across the globe, Giro d'Italia 2014 was embraced by the citizens of Northern Ireland in a manner rarely seen outside of Italy, and it's a trend that's set to continue.
I think Northern Ireland took it to its heart, and I heard a quote that said, "We've always been looking for a colour to unite under. Whoever thought it would be pink?" And the whole country united behind it, came out and just made it a great spectacle.
It's absolutely fantastic for us to have this Giro Gran Fondo. It's part of the official Gran Fondo series. There's only 12 in the world, so it's brilliant that we have one here in Northern Ireland as part of our legacy from hosting the Giro d'Italia Gran Partenza last year.
Sportive or Gran Fondo events are the fastest growing branch of road cycling, an increasingly popular option for riders looking for a competitive outlet.
There's a global conversation going on about whether Gran Fondos are races or rides. Is it a race? Is it not a race? I think when you put two people together beside each other on a bike, essentially you have a race.
Around 2/3 of the entrants have opted for the longer 173km Mourne route, which leaves from Titanic Belfast. The riders winding their way through County Down on their way to Montetree Hill for the first big test of the day. The Mourne Mountains loom large. The gradual climb of Monte Leitrim Hill will soften the legs ahead of the switchback climb of Monte Spelga Dam. The last climb of the day to Monte Slieve Crúb precedes the final leg to Dramara town on rolling roads before the gradual descent back into Belfast City and the welcome sign of the finish line at Titanic Belfast. The Strangford route will prove challenging and enjoyable for all levels of cyclists, with 58 kilometres of rolling roads and 2 categorised climbs, the first of those, Monte Brunel, coming within the first 6 kilometres. The beauty of the Strangford Loch on the Ards Peninsula keeps them company for much of the route. Leaving the town of Cumber, the climb of Monte Monterey is the final big test of the day before the homeward journey down into Belfast and a well-earned bowl of pasta.
This is a fantastic place to come cycling here in Northern Ireland, not just for road biking, but also for mountain biking. We have some world-class trails around the Mourne Mountains. So this is a real opportunity for us to show everybody the fantastic cycling countryside that we have. And this event obviously is on closed roads, and that's a really great opportunity for amateur cyclists to get the feel of being a professional.
It's a huge logistical challenge. You're taking 200 of the world's top riders, putting them down narrow roads at high speeds, followed by up to 60 vehicles, surrounded by thousands and thousands of people. It's a challenge to keep people safe.
There are plenty of attractions for all the family and even a pop-up velodrome to offer a taster of track cycling for aspiring stars young and old. A Among their number, and possibly the most relaxed two riders in the entire event, the amazing McCaig brothers from Dundonald.
I started to cycle when I was able to ride a bike. That was 3 or 4 year old, and I've been cycling ever since, so I have. And it's a great equaliser, you know. When you're cycling, you maybe get a bit tough. Well, other people are getting it tough too.
And I really love it too, I really love it. And I do these runs and I never feel tired. Matter of fact, when I go home, I feel fresher. The hardest part it'll be for tomorrow will be getting out of bed early. That's the hardest part.
Race day arrives as riders complete their preparations ahead of the early morning start in Belfast. With bellies full of pasta and porridge, gilets and arm warmers are very much in evidence, protecting the riders from the chill morning air. Among them, one of the world's top road racers.
Well, the Tour de France coming up in just under 2 weeks, so it is good, you know, come here and do a nice long ride, 173 kilometres, which, to be honest, I probably couldn't have done at home by myself. This time of the year, you do need a bit of different scenery to stimulate your training, so I'm looking forward to getting up into the mountains and having a good look around.
Well, I'm planning 8 hours, so I'm not going to be taking my time, but I'll be I'll be doing a nice ride and taking in the scenery, because I don't come back here often, and it's an ideal opportunity for me to kind of refresh my memory as to how beautiful up here it is, you know.
Mornbury to the right, Stratford to the left.
Riders lining up on the start line for the 173-kilometre Mourne route, with GIRO star Richie Porte making a few final adjustments to his bike. The Australian is joined on the front by 1987 GIRO winner Stephen Roach and some of the local stars of Northern Ireland bike racing. Stretched out before them, over 107 miles of tough bike racing over some of the most beautiful roads you're likely to find anywhere. Plenty of gilets and arm warmers in evidence in the brisk morning air. They'll be hoping to reduce the clothing load as the day progresses. A few nervous faces among the assembled throng and a few smiles too. Time for a few last minute selfies. No shortage of pink on view among the rainbow of colours in evidence in Belfast.
Here from the Titanic water in Belfast. Good luck everybody, enjoy the day and be safe.
Finally the riders are sent on their way. All that nervous energy can be directed into the pedals at last. Riders making their way across the rubber mat. Chip timing registering their start time for an accurate recording of their final achievement. And it'll take more than 10 minutes for all 2,000 competitors in the 173-kilometre event to pass the start line, by which time leaders are already well into their ride. There's a few anxious faces in the crowd. A large crowd of well-wishers, friends and families send them on their way. Event organiser Darragh McQuaid surveys the scene like a proud father. And it'll certainly be a long day out if you have to walk with the bike the whole way. Already 4 minutes in and riders streaming across the mat while at the head of affairs. Out front amongst the lead group of riders, well, Stephen Roach is much in demand, as you might expect. He's enjoying the company and the camaraderie of the road, for which cycling is famous. 2,000 riders in this 173-kilometre event. Roach at the front, Richie Porte just behind him, also much in demand for a chat, as you might expect. Team Sky star who made his name in the Giro d'Italia a few years ago with a debut 7th place finish. Seen over Titanic Quarter as the crowd started to thin out a little bit. Very shortly the riders from the 58-kilometre event, the Strangford route, starting to assemble on the start line. Slightly more relaxed air about this group, as you might expect. And inevitably the selfies recording the beginning of the challenge and looking at the riders stretched out behind them. Over 1,000 riders in this 58-kilometre event. Popeye shows his fighting spirit, and perhaps there was spinach with the pasta for breakfast this morning. Lots of smiles, a few anxious faces as well. Everybody wondering what awaits them out on the road. Great to see the McCaig brothers lined up and ready for their challenge, two of the most inspirational bike riders on the island. Also the bikes in evidence, including tandems, recumbents, town bikes and some very impressive road bikes preparing for the off as well.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And they're off at last. More than 1,000 riders cross the map and head east out of Belfast towards the Ards Peninsula. And a beautiful scene around the Strangford Lock. Once again, it takes a while for the riders to complete the start process. While the podium will be filled with the first riders home, the finishing times are recorded by the start and finish times at the mat, so everyone gets an accurate finishing time. So 3,000 bike riders have left from Titanic Quarter, heading out into the roads of County Down in Northern Ireland. 2 different routes on offer. And already at the front of the 58-kilometre Strangford route, some riders flexing their muscles and keen to get going. Plenty of riders with different ambitions for the day. Some just keen to get through the route, others trying to set a time, and others thinking about perhaps being first home. Riders on the 173-kilometre Mourne route, meanwhile, are making their way through the outskirts of Belfast and towards the climbs to come. Just over 40 kilometres of more or less flat roads before they hit the first climbing test of the day. Nobody's pushing too hard on the front at the moment. It's still very much a large group together, spread wide across the road. Up the Castlereagh Road, we're heading out of Belfast, still a large and compact group together, spread wide across the road, dividing around the camera, and everyone looking pretty relaxed. A few calling the bit of road furniture. Up front, representatives of Dave Kane Cycles marshalling the group, clearly in control of affairs at the front, riding as a team, and plenty of the clubs, of course, will ride throughout the day and make sure that they all start together, and many of them will want to finish together as well. Just a sign that things are starting to get a little bit stretchy at the front. Riders struggling to work their way through the groups to get onto this fast group at the front that are setting fairly hectic tempo now. And a sign that things are starting to get just a little bit serious. Through the town of Ballygowan, the riders make a right turn and head out into the countryside, racing towards Saintfield and Dramara. Got climbs to come. Monty is looming after just over 40 kilometres of bike riding, the first serious test of the day. 5 classified climbs and plenty of other lumps and bumps along the way. Riders on the drops, some on the tops. Well, at this stage, it's starting to get a bit intense, but there's still a time for a wave or two from one of the representatives of Banbridge Cycling Club. Local man on the local roads, he'll have plenty of knowledge, as will many of the riders. Many, though, they'll be taking to these roads for the first time. Still a time for a wave and a thumbs up, but for how much longer will those riders be smiling? They'll be baring their teeth in the next little while, but it might be more in a grimace than a smile, I think. Monty is about to make its appearance, the first serious climb, and riders will discover whether the gear choices they've made have been the correct ones. There's different styles of climbing, some winching themselves up the climb, others altogether more relaxed. And the prospect that they've got 4 more of these climbs and more than 100 kilometres of bike racing left, well, that's a daunting prospect at this point in the day. And tandems are difficult enough to climb on at the best of times. You don't want mechanical problems.
Steady pace the whole way here, up Tree Hill, pretty easy. Wee buns,
yeah.
You know. Other than that, good. Atmosphere's good buzz. Weather's starting to close in now, but it's all good.
Oh yeah, grand, handy enough. We just came in with a little group there, so just paced ourselves nicely. There's a long way to go. Yeah, so far so good, no fighting. Well, apart from me and the boss here, we fell out a couple of times, but that was before we got here.
Back on the Strangford route, the riders are already past the halfway point, passing Sketrick Island. They've been through Killinchy, and they'll be soon making their way back towards Belfast. And the groups have really split up in a big way on the road in this Strangford route. Not many more than 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 riders amongst the leading groups, and they toil and winch their way back towards Belfast after a tough day in the saddle. Huge crowds out. Great to see such fantastic support for bike racing in Northern Ireland. Is that a smile or a grimace? It's certainly a smile, isn't it? Lots of riders really enjoying the experience, and plenty taking the time to enjoy the scenery. Some others taking the time for a bit of on-the-road repairs. The riders in 1s and 2s and pushing hard towards the final classified climb of the day. Not everybody is taking it too seriously, and plenty have the opportunity to take a look to the right at the beautiful scenery around Strangford Lough. Great appreciation from the crowd at the side of the road. And great to see the McCaig brothers riding in tandem. Milton and John at 89 and 93 years of age. What an inspiration they've been. Now we have a group of 3 riders up front that have detached themselves from the rest of the groups, doing some wonderful work on the front. Keith Murphy, Chris McKeown and Paulius Makutis as representative of Orchard Cycling Club up on the big ring and charging back towards Belfast. The climb of Monterey has been dispensed with at this point. So now Keith Murphy on the front as they make their way back towards Belfast. Incredibly, this man was diagnosed with leukemia not so long ago. Inside the final few turns, the Harland and Wolff cranes in evidence, and it's McKeown, Murphy and Makutis to fight it out, and it's McKeown that's detached himself from the other riders. Murphy battles back into contention, but as McKeown looks around himself at Makutis, who of these 3 riders is going to have the honour of taking the first Gran Fondo Giro d'Italia Northern Ireland. It's McKeown that races clear inside the final few hundred metres to take the Strangford route of the Gran Fondo Giro d'Italia Northern Ireland.
Sore, but got there. I cramped over the line, but I got the sprint. So I did.
How was the route?
Yeah, good, very good. But hard into the wind, so it was at times. So.
So McKeown, Murphy and Makutis celebrate their medals, hard won indeed, and all the riders indeed will be collecting a medal. Very well deserved they are as well, as riders review the day's activities. And great to see the McCaig brothers home safely after their 58-kilometre bike ride. So the riders from the 58-kilometre Strangford route are home and finished at this point, enjoying their well-earned bowl of pasta. Out on the roads, the southern tip of County Down, the riders on the 173-kilometre Mourne route. Well, the weather has turned a little bit for them. Up front, a single rider has managed to forge clear from the leading group. That's Nigel Laffin from the Brewster Financial Services, and he's got plenty of riders chasing him. Groups of 5 and 6 riders have managed to assemble on the road. Plenty of riders riding solo at this point as well. Laffin still riding clear, but he's been chased by Mark Kane of Dave Kane Cycles. Pedalling smoothly, Laffin has managed to open up a little bit of an advantage. And still with a long way to go to Belfast. Can he manage to hold off the chasers behind? It's a brave effort indeed. Still climbing well. So Nigel Laffin leads the race up the Clonvarnahan Road. The Mourne Mountains have been dealt with. They're heading towards the final food stop of the day and the final climb of Monty Dree Hill.
That Spelga was particularly difficult.
Oh, not too bad now. So we drop a rain, you know, up over Spelga, but all or not, it's not too bad. It's a great day, great event.
Good. Cramped up a bit, but happy enough. We're on a 20 and a bit from home, so confident we'll make it to the beer tent.
It's raining and warm. Newcastle is just pure sunshine. 20 degrees, Dree Hill's just sitting like a cloud. Well, I've been to Mallorca, and you know, I've done a right few miles now, but just that was tough this morning. You know, too much too soon maybe at the start, but sure.
Absolutely. I think somebody said one time long ago you can only go through somewhere in a car where you can actually be somewhere on a bike, and I think that's true. You can get to see it all. So whether it's looking at houses or looking at scenery, it's beautiful.
So time for a quick snack and some running repairs as riders coax tired limbs on the remaining kilometres back towards Belfast after what's been a really tough day in the saddle. The weather has improved, sunshine breaking through the clouds once more, and large groups of club riders who've made the decision to ride together throughout the day. Because Mark Kane, former Olympian, has managed to race clear in the closing kilometres. He's got an enormous lead. He's actually been on the ground, but he's racing clear to take victory in Gran Fondo, Giro d'Italia, Northern Ireland, the Mourne route. And what a wonderful occasion for him, and a great way to remember his former days as an international cyclist. Accepting the congratulations of race organiser Darragh McQuaid.
For cycling in Northern Ireland, really pleased after, having to leave here to go to the continent to race, and then to come back here and have, such a big event now being promoted by Darragh and his team is just fantastic for me as a former international cyclist. The crowds at the start, this morning at 7:30 to see everybody, the buzz, the whole atmosphere. You can see the village here, which really gets, all the cyclists, really going, and for such an early start, everybody's really up for it, and the route, it's great to come in and get around the first Gran Fondo, Belfast, and hopefully now there'll be some more.
So Mark Kane is confirmed as the winner of the Mourne route of Gran Fondo Giro d'Italia Northern Ireland for 2015, ahead of his brother Paul, with Chris Richardson third on the day. First woman Anne Duffy ahead of Alwyn Shannon and Trudy Brown. And first home in the Strangford route of Gran Fondo Giro d'Italia was Chris McKeown ahead of Keith Murphy and Paulius Mikutas. First woman home, Pamela Eyre ahead of Elizabeth McConaughey and Noli Rudden.
Scenery on those two routes, Strangford and Mourne routes, is just incredible. So that tends to lift the spirits. You're fighting your way up the Spelga Dam or up Dree Hill or Slieve Group, and some people who have said to me they've lived 5 miles from those their whole life and they've never been at the top of Dree Hill. They went there last week and they couldn't believe the scenery. So we're really happy with how the event has been brought into by the riders, but also by the communities it's gone through. People have
sort of emotion on the day and the camaraderie among the riders and that fantastic bit of scenery really sort of adds to the occasion and sort of boosts you.
It was tough, but I enjoyed it. The weather was desperate, but sure, it was good fun.
A super challenge. I think it was over 2,800 metres in elevation, and there was a lot of people out there struggling, but enjoying it.
That's the biggest I've done, and there's 4 big hills in there, which hurt at the end, but it was good. It was really good, yeah.
So now off for a rest.
That's it from the inaugural Gran Fondo Giro d'Italia Northern Ireland. Thanks for joining us on the roads of Ulster. Join us again next year. Goodbye.